listeners, welcome to another episode of the Snowy's Camping Show, where we talk about all things camping and the outdoors. If you haven't joined us before, please subscribe either via YouTube if you're watching us or via your favourite podcast app if you're just listening in. And if you want to join in on the conversation with myself and my colleague Lauren here, jump on the Snowy's Camping Show Facebook group, where we'll discuss what we've discussed, other topics, throw your own questions on there. We want to hear your thoughts and opinions too. Today, we're talking about food for hiking. We've done a lot of camping talk up until now. Today, we're just talking about hiking. So lightweight food.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to take a lot of food when you're hiking, right? Burning heaps of energy, but you can't afford to carry it quite like you do in a car when you're camping. So,
and it's a very different preparing for a hiking trip and food than if you're going normal camping or, know, any other sorts of travel. So, I guess preparing for hiking, sorry to interrupt you there, but you could sort of take the same approach if you do lightweight adventuring like motorcycle touring or I would say adventure biking, because if you're motorcycle touring, you're more likely to have several stops in towns and things like that. But if you're doing like kayaking or things like that, it's a good approach to have.
I guess, so kayaking, the name slips my mind. The motorcycle packing,
adventure biking
or bicycle. I can't think of the word.
Bicycle touring.
Why did I not think of that word? That's a simple one.
Yeah.
But when you've got an actual vehicle to carry the food, there's your main restriction, I suppose, is space. You can afford to carry a little bit of extra weight, but
you're talking about bike packing.
Yes. You haven't got a motor.
No, you're not. You're on your bicycle in the bush.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess you still want to be lightweight, but you're a little bit pushed for space. Mm-hmm. But when you're hiking, it's both space and weight, right?
Absolutely.
And you're trying to get as many calories in your body as you can with a very small amount of food in your pack. Yeah. So I haven't done it for a long time, but done a fair bit of hiking back when I was a bit younger. Yeah. And I used to love spending time planning all my meals in Ziploc bags. I remember one hike we went on where I'd probably undercated my calories a little bit much, and thankfully my wife, a few nights in, she's going, "Oh, this food's great. I'm so full each night." And I said, "Seriously?" Because I'm just getting by. So she ended up offloading some of her food to me.
It's not like you've got a lot of energy stored on your body either.
No, I've been through it pretty quick. But partway in, I'm thinking, "Oh, geez, I've still got a week left of this. I don't know if I'm going to survive." But thankfully, it was too much for
There's
her.
There's nothing worse than being hungry, is there, when you're out doing stuff like that, because you just can't enjoy it as much. You're not like thinking as clearly. You just get more tired.
Yeah. Especially at the end of the day, hot meal, you just want to sit down and enjoy where you've stopped when you're hiking. So you need, the basics of what you need. Like, we're not claiming to be nutritionists or anything here. This is just what
general knowledge sort of stuff.
A little bit of research, but the basics are protein, carbs, and fats, and then vitamins or nutrients and things as well. And you kind of combination of all those to keep your body going.
Yeah,
I guess
your macros and your micros.
Well, there you go. I'm not even sure what that means, but but I guess you could get by on just sugars, right? And just have energy the whole time, but you're probably not going to feel very good.
No, you'd feel gross.
That pretty quickly, and you're probably going to have to carry more if it's just sugar. So you kind of need the proteins and stuff that are kind of that slow burn thing to get you through the day, and then enough for your body to refuel for the next day for another day of hiking. And obviously you're increasing your intake as you're exercising as well. So if you're doing 5, 10, 15 Ks a day, you're eating more because you're burning energy. So
I find it a bit better to sort of, I don't know about you, but to sort of have like little snack stops and water stops, as opposed to sitting down and having a big like lunch and then sort of getting up and moving again. Often it can be quite difficult because you're feeling tired and you've just eaten a massive meal and you're feeling a bit sluggish. So
it's hard to get up again.
Yeah, it is. Like doing the breakfasts and the dinners is good, but having lots of high calorie snacks is my preference, I'd say.
I'm exactly the same. Yeah. A good breakfast to start the day, and then just snacks on you as you go. I've always had something to eat for a stop. So you go through the motions of stopping for lunch.
Yeah.
I've never had a really big hot lunch because you sit there and you go into this kind of semi-coma and you've got to get up and start walking for the other half of the day. It's too hard. So just snacks as you go, keep your body fueled, and then stop at the end of the day and have a nice big meal.
Definitely.
That's how I've always operated. But we've got some stats here that are we sort of noted before, and it's what I always worked at, but about 700 grams to a kilo a day. I'd say a kilo is probably getting on the heavier side, but it depends on how you eat, I suppose. But if you can kind of get down to that sort of weight, then it's probably a reasonable sort of goal, I suppose. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people out there who know how to pack lighter or can get by on less food.
Probably also depends on how much you can carry. And also what your actual calorie requirements are. Like I know my partner, for example, anything less than 2,500 calories a day and he's like a hangry vegetable. So it's like I've done a fair bit of multi-day hiking and stuff in my time. He's done not as much. And so I'd like to get back into it with him.
Yeah.
And one of his largest complaints is, but how am I supposed to eat enough food? And it's true because he's quite a massive dude. But I think in that case, then it comes down to being really across we're talking about your macros, like your carbs, your proteins, your fat combinations, and being smart about the foods that you pick and getting really calorie dense, calorie rich foods that aren't large in volume and stuff like that.
So most amount of calories for least amount of weight, least amount of weight. Probably we'll cover upon some of the basics or what I guess maybe obvious things. So when you're packing food, remove the bulky packaging, remove all the extras. I know when I have planned for hiking, I've got all the food that I want, and then I've just got a heap of Ziploc bags that then double as my bin bags, and I can reuse them for other things as well. And taken all the packaging off and separated it out into kind of my daily rations so that I'm just carrying the Ziploc bags. They're lightweight and I haven't got all the extra packaging because you've got to then carry all that packaging out as well. So you're saving some weight there to begin with. And then make sure with your food that you've also got it in like we had one here before, now it's gone now, but like a stuff sack or something that because the last thing you want midway through a 1 week hike is that you found out the ants have got in your food or some animals rummage through and suddenly you don't have any food, then you're in all sorts of trouble. So always use a Ziploc bag or something that kind of seals it up in your bag to keep it safe.
Talking about the storage, Sam, who we work with, I know we've probably mentioned her a few times on and off. She was telling me once a while ago, and correct me if I'm wrong if you're listening to this, Sam, but she likes to do work out her food allocations for each day and then puts all of her food for the day into a Ziploc bag, not a Ziploc bag, sorry, a vac seal bag, and then vac seals it and then labels them. So she has lots of vac sealed packages for each day. But things like if she's going to use one of these sort of packet meals or what have you, putting a little pin prick in it. And if there's like a packet of crackers or biscuits or whatever, or putting a pin prick in it. So even though stuff might still be in packaging inside that, it's all getting all the air sucked out of it. And then that way no ants get in. It's all sort of coded for each day. So you're not trying to rummage through a bag of snacks and you don't have to worry about portioning and all that sort of stuff. And it's sort of just a bit more, I guess, safer and more compact than a Ziploc bag. But I guess the thing is Ziploc bags you can reuse, which, would always be our encouragement to reuse Ziploc bags. Vac seal bags tend to be less reusable.
Well, you can if you've got the vac seal to reuse them, but then, But I do like a tack there in probably more for the point of just being organised that you're not worried halfway through about sort of recounting, have I got enough? Or you've got a bag of oatmeal and you go, I'll just take one scoop a day, and then you're kind of going, oh, have I taken too much on one day? If you've already rationed that out, then you've taken that whole stress about, do I have enough food to get through out of the situation? You're just concentrating on enjoying your trip and you've got a bag of your food for the day. But I do like the idea of vac sealing it as well, because I know Sam tries to carry 12 kilos or something ridiculous on her back. So ridiculous as in ridiculously lightweight.
Yeah, of course.
So when you add food and everything into that, because food and water end up being the heaviest things when you're talking a long walk. So space is then a premium for her as well. So that's a good tip, I reckon. Let's move on to probably what people are here for is actual suggestions on what they should take, I suppose. But snacks are probably the most important thing, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Because during the day, like we said before, maybe I've always got snacks. Scroggin is a word I think we covered off on Scroggin in another
episode somehow, terminologies or something.
But have that on you as you walk during the day. You probably want to try and ration up, but just continual snacks on that sort of stuff during the day. That gives you kind of that balance of calorie rich. Like Scroggin's got you put dried fruit, peanuts.
You can get it
chocolate.
Pre-made or you can make it yourself.
Yeah.
And things like the chocolates and the nuts are 100% calorie dense food.
Yeah.
Love it.
And then the fruit adds some fiber and nutrients in there as well. So you've got a good balance of everything in there. So but you've got packaged options like we got some in front of us here.
The only thing I want to say on that is sometimes you can get Scroggin if it's prepackaged that's got like salted stuff in it, and just being aware of that, because sometimes having salted snacks while you're hiking can actually make you be more dehydrated, and then you have to drink more water and that sort of. So just be aware of the salt content in that stuff.
It's probably more cost effective just to make it yourself. Just buy a big bag of dried sultanas, a big bag of apricots, maybe some nuts. Just buy a heap of them and just make, if you go for 7 days, make 7 bags of Scroggin. It's a pretty cheap way of doing it.
Supermarkets and, like urban health food stores and stuff have huge big walls where you can just pick scoops and do whatever these days as well. So
much more cost effective than buying packaged stuff, and less packaging after that as well.
Yeah.
I've never really used it for hiking, but muesli bars and we've got energy bars in front of us here. These are like what I'm pointing at here for those who aren't watching us, are Cliff bars. They've got a few different versions, but they are made to be exactly what we're talking about here, energy dense foods. They're quite heavy for what they are. You could probably almost use it as a meal replacement.
You probably could. I remember not long ago, a friend and I did a big, I think it was nearly an 11-hour hike or something, just a big round trip just for the day. And we literally each had a Cliff bar and then like some water, and then we had like a banana, and we literally didn't have much, but a Cliff bar was the main thing, and it was fun.
I know I've had them in the afternoon just at work, and then a few hours later I realised I probably didn't need that because I now don't need dinner. So they are very rich, but you do end up with the packaging afterwards. They taste all right, but I do actually like making my own kind of mix of stuff. I think it's a little bit more kind of,
I think sometimes with it's like you say, with things like, your muesli or your protein bars, your energy bars, things like that, or the snacky things that you might have when you're hiking, a lot of them will come packaged. And I think sometimes just with the nature of what you're doing and having to portion them and not needing to have things refrigerated and whatever, it's like, I think, I don't know if someone out there will have a different opinion, but I think it's just a bit unavoidable to have packaging waste when you're hiking.
We have some. Yeah, I might take a few of these packaged things we've got in front of us here, not for the whole trip, but you will have a bit.
Because it's not like you can take, reusable tubs and things, because that's, when you're finished eating, then you've got a tub, even if it collapses, it's still a tub in your hiking pack that you have to carry out. And it's not necessarily practical, especially if you're on weight restrictions.
Yeah.
So I think it's just trying to balance, those ethics of the rubbish that you might be creating and being really conscious of that and sort of avoiding it where possible, but also possibly accepting that it might not be possible to avoid it completely.
Yeah. That's why I like the Ziploc bags.
Yeah.
You can just make your own and then they become a bin bag.
And you totally reuse them.
You can wash them and just use them next time.
Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely.
Yep. So snacks, my suggestion would be make your own Scroggin mix. Just buy a mix of the stuff you want, stick it in a bag, ration it out over so many days. You can go down the path if you want of looking at the actual calorie amounts of each, and I have done that before. If you want to work out how many calories you should take a day, but you won't really get to the point of, trying to cut 10 grams a day off your food if you're going that far. So
have you ever been on a trip where you've just smashed heaps of your Scroggin on the first day and you just feel like, damn?
Oh, probably.
Because it's so good.
Yeah.
I've done that a few times.
So you get a bit panicky when you reach in the bag. You're like, oh, no, it's nearly empty.
I've still got 3 days to go. Oh, yeah. Okay, so, water, obviously.
Well, you got to take water. That's the heaviest thing, right, you got to take. And if you're probably better off taking less food and more water, really, because you can survive, I don't know what the stats are, but you can survive so many days without food. You can survive
a week or something
without
with
water.
food.
So
3 days with water or 2 days with water or something. I think, but also carrying water, I think it depends on whether or not there's going to be water stops at all, or if you will have access to a water source. Because if you do have access to a water source, investing in like a good lightweight water filtration system and stuff is probably just as good. But making sure you're across that before you go is really important.
Yeah. And electrolytes in the water is a good thing. I know for myself, I've taken I've got just powdered electrolyte. Excuse me. We've got some, or example here, these are just tabs, but that can be quite heavy, right, to carry.
Yeah.
And then you've got the hard, like you said before, you've got the container that's always there. But I've taken powder before because you can just, just one bag of powder. I know one scoop in my water at the end of the day. I quite often get to camp and have some electrolyte powder after walking all day. I wouldn't drink it all day. I'd probably feel really bad if I drank it all day. But just to replace some electrolytes at the end of the day, get really rehydrated that night, ready for the next day. So
you can also get things like dehydrated coconut water, which is an awesome natural electrolyte. Yeah, so you can get dehydrated coconut water powder, so you can put it in your water as well.
No way.
If that's something that you're into.
I've never even heard of it, but I'll check it out. We've got coffee written down here.
Yeah.
I don't know. Has there been an episode gone by where we haven't talked about coffee?
I don't think so. I talk about it because I miss it. You talk about it because you love it.
Well, surely we didn't talk about it when we were talking about fuel or something. Surely we must have missed it then. But
no, we did because you were talking about how you'd forgotten gas or something to cook your. I swear it was something to do with
filters.
Ah, damn it. Okay.
I didn't have that many tantrums.
All right.
Look, for me, coffee is an essential. And in the past, I've probably become more of a coffee snob as I've gone on. I probably have taken powdered coffee.
Yeah.
I feel bad.
Sometimes it's just easier.
But it could be easy. You can get coffee bags and that sort of thing. I guess you could take ground coffee, but then it's a bit harder when you're hiking because that ground coffee, right, is dry and lightweight. Yeah. You make coffee, suddenly it's wetter and heavier, so you're not shedding as you go. You're increasing,
and
the
it's
weight,
just and it is waste that you have to either carry with you or dispose of, which you should carry with you for.
Don't just ditch it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to be campsites.
I think that's what instant coffee it just dissolves into you. You know what I mean? You don't have any waste with it. Yeah. But there are cool things like if you're someone who uses a jet boil, you can get like what they call a grande press, which matches up with whatever jet boil model you've got to make your own coffee in your jet boil. Things like AeroPress, that sort of thing.
But what I have found though is I quite often I'll take just hot chocolate because I do find that when I'm hiking, you're in a totally different environment, right? And your mind's in a different mindset. You're out of your normal routine. So for me, coffee is almost a routine thing. I enjoy the first coffee in the morning and I enjoy it midway through my morning as I go on. But when I'm hiking, it's totally different.
Yeah, right.
So I have found I've been able to manage just on, say, hot chocolate when I'm hiking because I'm not in that normal routine.
Yeah,
so
right.
I'm able to get away from my addiction.
Yeah. And you probably maybe getting a bit philosophical here, but if you're out in nature and you've got fresh air and it's sun and you're moving your body and you're just in a better state of mind, you don't need coffee because coffee in a lot of ways is like, that sort of pseudo nerve stimulant, soothing, whatever. It helps sort of people get through.
I think there's a lot in that.
Yeah.
And when you're doing this, you probably just need what we talked about before, your proteins, carbs, nutrients that you need to get through and just enjoy
sort of getting
outdoors.
all your needs met. You don't necessarily need the coffee. Yeah. But you sort of just on coffee really quickly, you've mentioned also condensed milk and coffee in a tube before.
I don't know if you can still get it, but it's
I'm pretty sure you can.
Milk in a
I'm
tube.
sure you can.
I do recall walking along a few hikes just sucking that straight out of the tube for my coffee fix, but I don't know. That's I don't think I could do it now. I've matured since then. I like to think of that anyway.
You can also get things like protein powders and stuff to add
smoothie
powders. Talking about hot chocolate, actually, I saw this online and I gave it a crack and it was actually quite good. It's when with your flavored protein powder, like obviously whey protein powder, just adding hot water to it and a bit of milk, you can actually get a hot beverage, but it's like protein. So someone that I know online does it and they have chocolate protein powder and that's what they use to make their hot chocolates with instead of just straight up hot chocolate. So that's possibly, like an awesome thing you could do when you're hiking because you're getting your hot chocolate fix, but you're also getting a bit of protein.
Yeah, I said to my producer before the show, she had some protein powder on the table here in front of us. And I said, no, I don't think we need that. We don't. It's kind of a exercise recovery thing, but now I've got to eat my own words because.
Well, yeah, I'm just thinking it's really cool. It's a really, that can be a good option. And with you having two uses for everything, hot chocolate and protein.
Yeah, good one.
2 uses.
Good idea.
Fresh food. Yeah. I admittedly never have really taken a huge amount of fresh food except for maybe things like apples or bananas or mandarins, that you consume pretty early on in the first couple of days.
Yeah. Bananas mash pretty easy, but I've taken apples.
I generally don't take fresh bananas. I like to dry bananas because they're amazing dried whole. They're like become like this, like a little stick of chewy lolly. Yeah, whole. Right. No, never as chips because I hate them when they're hard, but you'd peel them and you dry them whole because I have a dehydrator and they sort of shrink down to like a third of their size and admittedly they look a bit suspicious. But then when you bite them, it's like, sometimes when you're a kid, if you eat a red skin lolly and you bite into them and it's like hard and it snaps, but then you bite into some and they're soft. Yeah. It's like that. It's like a soft, chewy red skin. Right. But it's a banana and it's amazing.
I've done chips before.
I'll have to bring some in for you.
Sounds good. So you can taste some fresh stuff, like fresh. Carrots last quite a long time. Some of those hard sort of vegetables last quite a while. I guess if you're eating it fresh, if you're taking it to cook, then you got to boil it for a while. Then you got to question how much gas you're taking. But fruit and that sort of thing. If you're taking fresh stuff, just eat it early on. And I guess we're talking from a perspective of hiking here in Australia, where it's generally pretty warm.
Yeah.
If you're in a really cold environment, then obviously you've got much more leeway in terms of how much fresh stuff you can take because it's a colder environment anyway. But yeah, eat most of your fresh stuff early on.
Hard cheeses and cold meats, like preserved meats. When I say cold meats, I don't mean like frites, but I mean things like salami or prosciutto or those sorts of dried meats. I find you can get away with not having them in a fridge for quite a long time.
Well, some of them aren't even stored in a fridge, but they're quite heavily salted as well in order to do that. So, but then you got to balance that. You're going to get protein and then have some other stuff with it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, salami's a good one. Even the stuff that's in the fridge, if you keep it wrapped up, it does last a few days. Unless it starts to get really hot. Yeah. If you keep it cool, it does last pretty well. I guess how long you want to make it last is a bit of a, and
it probably depends on personal preference. Like I know there are some things that I'm totally happy with not being in the fridge, whereas other people might be like, oh my God, no. So I think it just comes down to you and what you like and what you feel comfortable eating.
Yeah. We mentioned cheeses too. There are some cheese will last a bit longer out of the fridge, but you can buy, there's that.
Did you say Laughing Cow? Did you say was a brand? It's like on the shelf cheese?
It's in a little round disc and you get little triangles. I wouldn't say it's the best tasting cheese, but it's shelf stable.
Okay.
And you spread it on a cracker or in a wrap or something.
So it's like a spread.
Well, you can eat it like cheese, but it's quite soft. You can spread it like cream cheese. So you go, it's all right. It's a little bit kind of bitter tasting, but it's okay. It's better than that block of stuff in the blue pack.
Yeah, right.
I'm not quite sure what that is.
I don't know what that is either.
It's a bit nasty.
I haven't tried to eat it.
No, I wouldn't bother. And bread, my tip, and I think you said this as well, like wraps are the way to go because they're packed flat. They last.
If you can get small ones as well, like little mini tortilla size ones. You don't have to get huge, big ones.
Yeah. And they travel better than bread. Bread's just kind of mash up. And
definitely.
Good. So grab your favourite wraps.
Breakfast is always an oldie but a goodie oatmeal. Just you can get oatmeal in sachets, which makes it really easy to divide up your day, or you can do them yourself in Ziploc bags. Yep. You can add powdered milk in it as well. So just add water, and it's a really quick, really easy way to get a good dense breakfast in.
I do that with muesli. So I make my own muesli at home. So that's got nuts and fruits and then various oats, spelt, that sort of thing in it and seeds. And then I just throw some powdered milk in there in a little sachet. So then I've got my breakfast portion for the morning. So
do you have like I know this might sound like a weird question, but do you just tip cold milk in or warm milk in? Because I know some people like to have their muesli with like warm milk.
Oh, yeah, good. No, that's fair question. Well, you put water in because it's powdered milk, right? So all you need to do is add
warm water or cold water, I guess.
Yeah, I guess if it's a cold winter's morning, I might heat up it because I'll be heating up water for a hot chocolate or possibly a coffee anyway, and then I just put a little bit in my muesli as well. And if it's a cold morning, then that's quite nice to have.
I was going to say
it gets a little bit soft after a while.
I think it's bircher muesli or something that's good to heat up or have hot or something. I don't know.
Some of that's got sugars and stuff in it as well. Mine's got nothing added, but if you get that bircher stuff, then it kind of goes those clustery kind of look, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it's got a bit of sugar and stuff through it as well. So,
but I reckon that's the go-to for breakfast.
Yeah, you could take wheat bix, but they're probably just going to be like oatmeal by the time you go to eat them anyway. They'll be mashed in your bag. So
yeah, I don't know. I'm not a massive fan of wheat bix.
No.
I just feel like they're just so crumbly, and you just eat them, and then you're like, is that it?
There's a lot of space as well in your bag for wheat bix. So
that's true.
The breakfast's pretty easy one like that. Just something sort of breakfast cereally with some powdered milk.
Things you don't so I guess when people think hiking, possibly what they're thinking of or hiking food is like the freeze-dried meals, but you don't necessarily have to go for those freeze-dried meals. Like for me personally, I might pick one for dinner, but I'm not going to be eating a breakfast. I'm not going to be eating a lunch. I'm not going to be eating a dinner. I personally myself also find that they don't really agree with me a huge amount if I'm having a lot of them. So maybe just limiting it to one a day for dinner works a lot better for me personally. But you can get loads of awesome stuff just even from your supermarket, like your classic Deb mashed potato, the powdered mashed potato. I know.
So did you see the post on the Facebook?
Dan, I'm pretty sure Dan, one of our mates, on
Yeah.
Facebook is he talked about them Deb and gravy powder, and then you add water and it's like this gravy mash.
Yeah, I can't believe
that was a hot tip. I know. Thanks, Dan. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you can get things like Deb, and you can get rice and pasta. I'm not sure about the pasta, but I know you can get rice that's sort of been par cooked in a sachet, so it's sort of not too bad. Then it doesn't take a long time to cook. And then with pasta, you can get things like risotto or little small macaroni bits, so it cooks a lot more quicker.
The only thing with those like rice and pasta is a pasta so the rice we're talking about, the semi-cooked rice, you can almost heat that up in its container or in a bowl or something.
Yeah.
Pasta, you need water to cook the pasta, so you're carrying extra water just to cook the pasta, and then you're getting rid of that unless you use it for wash up and stuff as well. So just have a think about the pasta side of it. Maybe even
good point.
Couscous is a great one because you put water in there and you cover it up, and the water soaks into the couscous.
Yeah, so you don't have like active cooking or water waste.
That's it, yeah, and you can just eat it straight away. So think about that with all the things that if you need to boil it, you're going to have extra gas and extra water to do that as well.
That's true.
I'm not saying don't do it.
But it's a really good consideration. Yeah. And things like noodles, like Asian noodles and stuff, you can get the same with a sort of par cooked or they're fresh noodles. They don't really require a huge amount.
Yep.
And they also don't need to be refrigerated, which is good. Things like, your nut butters, your random nuts. We talked before about how sometimes they have bulk food places at supermarkets.
Yep.
Chocolate, dark chocolate is 100% the go-to.
Yeah.
I reckon.
Antioxidants in there as well.
Yeah, 75% I reckon is a good one. And then, it's more nutrient dense than, say, your standard milk chocolate as well. So if you're not a dark chocolate convert, try just to get across the line, even just for your sort of hiking or lightweight adventures. Dried fruit, of course, and crackers, like small Jatz crackers or rice crackers or things like that. They're pretty easy to sort of portion out because they come in larger packets and things.
Yep. Probably better than taking, we mentioned it before, like Sayo biscuits are bigger. They're probably going to break up in the pack, but if you grab smaller crackers, you don't end up just with this.
And things like Sarkar tars are really hardy, like the rice crackers, they're really hardy. It's not like they're just going to powder or crumble or anything.
Yep.
And they tend to be okay. I've found, like, if you're not, in a hiking situation, in case if your packet comes loose or something and they're not perfectly sealed, they don't go really stale or they don't necessarily go gross. They sort of stand up to that sort of stuff a bit better.
Yep.
Things like spices and sauces and condiments, I'm never really bothered too much. What about you?
Not as an extra thing, like not as a something extra in the bag. I think I've taken a little thing of Parmesan once because we did make pasta, like that shelf-stable Parmesan powder that you get. It's not real Parmesan. Well, probably is where it started, but it's processed. But I will we're touching on it a bit after this, but taking meat things like jerky. We've got vegan jerky here. I'm not quite sure. I think we're trying to be I've never heard of vegan jerky.
I don't know. Maybe it's dried mushrooms or something. Don't know. If you're a vegan and you eat vegan jerky, let us know what it is.
But then there's tuna or salmon. They're not as – I can't see them as often now, but sachets.
You used to be able to get them in sachets.
Sachets are good, yeah, because you end up with waste, but they pack flat, so they're a really good thing to get some protein.
I've seen previously, I don't know because I've probably blanked it from my memory. I was possibly a bit traumatized, but chicken in a sachet and a can.
Oh yeah, I think you can still get that. I never tried it.
It's weird when you think, canned fish, totally normal, canned chicken.
Sounds strange,
but realistically, it's the same sort of thing. But that's a possible option as well.
If you grab, so everything we talked about there, right? So we've got various types of noodles or deb or rice or pasta, some meats, tuna, salmon. Then you've also got
dried peas and carrots.
Dried peas. You can get dehydrated mushrooms. You can get all sorts of dehydrated veggies from an Asian supermarket.
Yeah.
So I would buy all this stuff in bulk and then get all my Ziploc bags and I'd portion it out. And then within each bag there might be so much couscous that I need, and then so much of the surprise peas, and then some veggies, and then I put a teaspoon of spices in there as well. And then to cook that, all I need to do is empty it out. If it's couscous, you just got to steam it for a while. The only thing is that those your veggies, unless you boil them, aren't going to become really sort of plump.
Yeah.
They're kind of chewy, but they're still good.
Because there's a difference between, and we're going to touch on this a bit more when we're talking about dehydrating your own meals, but there's a difference between freeze-dried, like in your sachets, which takes, a couple of minutes, and dehydrated.
Yeah, so freeze-dried rehydrates quicker, and that's
really
just because of the nature of the freeze-dry, which kind of there's this real science behind it, but it extracts the moisture out. And in the process of pulling the moisture out, it leaves kind of little holes in the food, so the water goes into middle of the food
a lot easier.
Whereas a dehydrated food just dries from the outside in, so it takes a while for that to soak back in again. But just going back on the condiments thing, I do also want to mention that you can get tomato paste in sachets.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen that before.
I've made a pasta with the parmesan that I was talking about before. That was just some pasta. It was one meal that I was boiling for a little bit with some dehydrated veggies, some spices, boil that up. And then when the water got low, just chuck this
tomato paste
in there, and that acted
was
as
your sauce.
And I'm not saying it's like a food you cook at home.
No, of course
after
not.
You've done a lot of
Who
Ks
cares?
during the
You
day,
eat anything after you've walked 20 Ks.
Pretty good, yeah,
totally. So in terms of cooking your food, you've just obviously, you got your little hiking stoves and things like that. I mean, we'll probably do another episode where we get more in depth into the cooking options for hiking, but it just, when you're choosing it, just consider are you going to be cooking in a saucepan? Do you want to have a fry pan? Are you happy to just use like say all-in-one units like a jet boil system, for example, with a flask? It's sort of,
My
just
phone
sort of
just vibrated there. Apologies.
just comes down to the kinds of food that you're going to be eating. And I think something like if you do want to do largely dehydrated meals, you're not going to need pots and pans and things like that. Right. So something like a jet bowl is really ideal.
Yeah. You can make fish cakes on the trail as well, but in doing that, you're probably going to need a fry pan to cook it with. And I probably wouldn't say take a fry pan just to make one.
Totally.
Fish cake meal. You probably want to have a few meals that you use in that fry pan
think about
to justify taking it.
Be smart in terms of what you're packing. And also things like cutlery, you can get super lightweight cutlery. You can do things like we've got on the table here, a long-handled spoon, which is designed to go into your packets.
They go into these packs, right?
And you reach all the way down to the bottom. You can get nesting cutlery, all sorts of bits and bobs like that.
Yep.
But in terms of dehydrating your own food, a lot of people do it. But I have heard, not from someone who does it personally, but from someone who knows someone who does it personally.
Right. Secondhand
information. But when they all go hiking together, the people who dehydrate their own food have to sort of not long after lunch put all their hot water in and start to try and rehydrate their DIY dehydrated food not long after lunch in time for dinner, whereas the people who are doing dinner can just get that all sorted by the time they sit down because of, as you mentioned before, that process of dehydrated food taking a lot longer. So I think possibly we've got a blog post on it as well, all about how to dehydrate your own food for hiking. So even if you're not necessarily dehydrating a whole meal, being able to dehydrate different sorts of components like fruits and things like that, so good.
Yeah.
So there'll be lots of information. No, I was going to say there'll be lots of information on the blog post as well if it's not something you've done before. And if it is something that you do regularly, share some more info with us on that.
Heaps of tips out there. I can see the value in I want to get into dehydrating. So I make a meal for the family and then I dehydrate a portion so it sits ready for hiking. But if you carry you get those 1 litre Nalgene's, the classic kind of bottle to take, you put your food in there at lunchtime, like you say. The benefit of doing it like that is you're doing half the cooking while you're walking for the afternoon. You get to the campsite and all you need to do is heat it up.
Yeah,
so you're not actually cooking, you're just heating it up. It just requires a bit of planning because if you forget to do that at lunchtime, then you're going to be waiting until late for your dinner.
You're right. It probably does require less gas then and less sort of because you're not necessarily having to boil water and then, blah, blah, blah. Probably also would require maybe less water because you're not actually having to cook anything. You're just literally heating up something that you've just reconstituted over the course of the day.
And it might be a nicer meal because you've cooked it back at home with all your kitchen things.
Yeah, fresher and all that jazz. But anyway.
Not necessarily right or wrong way, but just things to consider. It's certainly something I'd do if one day when I finally get a dehydrator. But check out that blog post because there's lots of tips there and we'd love to hear other people's ideas on their best dehydrated food and stuff as well for hiking.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not an easy thing to plan for and easy ideas are something everyone's looking for. We've mentioned freeze-dried meals. We talked about freeze-dried before. That's these here. So these are backcountry cuisine. We've got another brand recently.
It's called Radix or Radix. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce it, but the thing that's
have you tried them?
No, I haven't. The thing that I find appealing though is they are one of the only brands that seem to be very happy to give the macro breakdown of each individual meal. So every meal you pick from them, you can see how many carbs, how much protein, how much fat, gives you the gram content. It also caters for different nutritional requirements like gluten-free and vegan or / plant-based and keto even. So there's lots.
It's a big range.
It's a big range, and they seem to be quite, I guess, conscious in the food that they create, which is really good, especially if you're somebody who is more across the food that you're putting into your body and having to tailor that a bit more specifically.
So these are great for if you don't want to do all that planning yourself.
Yeah,
you can
can't be
just
bothered.
buy these for your trip. As you mentioned before, I've not felt really good eating these too often. I might take a couple on a 7-day trip or something, maybe 2 or 3. But you can literally just pack them in your food. I do find them to be kind of bulky, and the other consideration is you've got each of these packets when they're empty to pack back out again. Now these ones do have like a zip top seal thing here, so you can then turn them into rubbish bags, I suppose, but then that just becomes a rubbish bag for more of those packages if that's all you've taken. So just have a think about carrying all that in and out as well. And in all of this, I reckon it's probably worth just thinking about if you're panicking, going, oh God, I can't walk for that. I can't carry that much food. If a walk is that long that you kind of can't pack everything in your bag, then there's probably a facility somewhere for a food drop.
I know, like Larapinta Trail, apparently they'll do food drops for you, and you can, food drops. You can put fresh undies and socks and things like that.
A bottle of wine.
So, that definitely possibly is something you could do. And I remember when I was a bit younger, a friend did a very large portion of the Hyson Trail. They just got a couple of their family members on board and just organised for, every week for someone to come and meet them at a particular place with some supply changeovers.
It reminds me sorry, I'm butting in there.
No, that's okay.
Exciting
Go for it.
story. We had a trip. It was a Larapinta Trail actually, and I was living in Alice Springs at the time, but we had some friends, thanks Simon and Ali, come out and met us out there in the desert. Quite often it's summer and then overnight it's winter. That happened while we were out in the trail, and we had lightweight bags, and we just out of chance put our heavyweight bags in this car. And the night before we had a really cold night, sleep huddling together, my wife and I, and thankfully we met them the next day and had warm bags. But they
changed
also
your sleeping
came
bags
out,
over. That's great.
Yeah, but they also came out with this curry chicken that night, like fresh home cooked food, and it was just the best home cooked meal
I can imagine
ever, because we'd been walking for a week and they come out.
I can absolutely imagine.
That was really cool. So
that would be the best.
Don't think you're cheating by doing that. It makes for a good story, and it's a good meal when you get the friends out there plus company.
Of course,
just for another night.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So I think we've sort of about covered it for the most part.
I hope that was lots of good information, but I'm sure our listeners have got heaps of things to add here as well.
Definitely.
There's endless opportunities, but probably the main takeaways are lightweight and nutritionally, what have we got here? Nutritionally dense or calorie dense food. So I have mentioned peanut butter. My lunch stop is usually peanut butter on chocolate chip cookies because you're getting.
I know that. That sounds great.
It's pretty good. Yeah, just eat a few of those at lunchtime.
Might have it for work tomorrow.
Yeah. So, and don't worry too much about unhealthy food while you're hiking, because you're burning it off anyway. You just got to get calories in your body.
I don't think we've mentioned to consider more food than you usually would eat, because if you're hiking, you'll be consuming more calories.
Yeah, I've been caught out with that before. Thankfully, my wife had too much food. I told you that story.
Yeah, you did tell me that before. Yeah,
I was only just getting by. And balance your fats, carbs, nutrients. Like, don't just go with one food. Get a mix of fiber and nutrients and oils and fats and proteins and that sort of thing. Try and mix it up a bit. So,
definitely.
But most of all, just enjoy it. It's good fun.
It is awesome fun.
Of the awesome food that you'll have after a long day of hiking, and the reward of having carried it all that way and then still eating nice food in the middle of nowhere.
And you get lighter as you go.
That's right, yeah. So don't eat it all at once, because you still got to get through. But just get yes, another meal. Well, it's not in your pack anymore anyway, is
That's
it right?
True.
So
totally.
Eventually it's going to be offloaded. Probably should have said that.
On that note.
Thanks for joining us. Like we said before, if you haven't done it already, please subscribe, like us on YouTube, subscribe via your favourite podcast app, and jump on the Snowies Facebook, Snowies Camping Show Facebook group. Ask to join in on the conversation, give us your advice and questions, and we're done.
We are done.
Thanks. We'll see you next time.
Catch you later.
See ya.